I know I'm a basic white bitch who just likes to read her contemporaries and her magical realism. I know, you don't have to tell me. I was born this way. I was born to be the color of milk.
Hi, says the girl with the right eyes that pairs pretty well when she hits you with the soft smile.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
Cool. Hi friends, it's Rory, and today is another book tag. It may seem like I've done a lot of book tags recently. That's because I have. I really like book tags, but this one is specifically an Avatar The Last Airbender book tag. And I want to do it right now because I'm currently participating, when this is uploaded, in the Avatar The Last Page Turner readathon. It's a readathon that is happening in preparation for the Legend of Korra being released on Netflix. Now, as you can see by my beautiful, there's a glare on it, but my beautiful Legend of Korra library edition of Turf Wars. I adore Legend of Korra. Legend of Korra is one of my favorite shows of all time, and just, I love her. And so when I saw that this readathon was going on, I wanted to join immediately, and I wanted to do an Avatar book tag because I'm doing the readathon and in preparation of Legend of Korra being put on Netflix. So that's what this is. I just hit my camera as I was going off screen, so sorry if the angle changed. This tag was originally started by Hannah, who is a Clockwork reader. So let's go ahead and get started. So we start with water. Katara and Sokka, the best sibling relationship. So for that, I chose Susan David, also known as Doc, from the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. This is an old series. It's actually low-key a big childhood favorite of mine. So this is about a girl who can see ghosts. She's called a mediator, and her purpose is to help ghosts move on to the great beyond. She recently moves from New York to California because her mother marries a man who has 3 sons, and David is one of those sons. So she has 3 brothers. He's actually the youngest. He's also the only one of her brothers that knows that Suze can see ghosts by the end of the series, and he is actually a really big part. Like, there's one part where there's a ghost that lives in their house named Jesse, and he goes to David because he knows about Suze's powers, and is able to warn him that something is wrong, things like that. They also just genuinely have, like, it's definitely like a big sister kid brother type feel to their relationship, and she starts out really disliking her new stepbrothers. When you first meet them, she just calls them Sleeping Beauty dwarf names. So David is Doc, and the oldest one is Sleepy, and then the middle one is named Dopey to her, but then she starts to, like, actually call them by their names, and it's I really like this series, and the relationship between Suze and David is great. 10 out of 10. UA, favorite star-crossed lovers. I legitimately just finished this book, and when I say that I'm in love with this book, I mean it. Like, I laid down on my bed for like an hour and wondered what I was going to do with my life when I finished this book, and part of it is because of the star-crossed relationship, and that is Red and Blue from This Is How You Lose the Time War. This book, I swear, you guys. So this book, if you haven't heard about it, is about 2 agents from different sides of a war throughout time. So they are both like big agents on their side, and their goal is to go back and forth through the timelines, which they call like strands, and make small changes so that their side of the war will be the dominant outcome. They start to send letters back and forth to each other, at first being really antagonistic, and then slowly through the letters they fall in love. It's definitely a book where you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I personally love it, and I really, really recommend it, especially if you're a big fan of Enemies to Lovers, because I cried like a bitch over this book. Bloodbending, a book with a disturbing or unsettling concept. For that, I'm choosing Unwind by Neil Shusterman. This is a book where there was a civil war over reproductive rights, and there was a concession made where there is not allowed to be any abortion, but after children turn 13, parents can decide to have their children unwound, which basically means that they are going to be killed, but it's for the greater good, because every, like 99% of their body is going to be used in other ways, like for organ transplants, things like that. And so they don't really see it as murder because it's helping other people. Just the concept of this is really off-putting. It's really now we go ahead and we move on to Earth. The first question is Toph, a character whose strength surprises you or surprises other characters. I'm not really surprised by the strength this character is, but the fandom sure is, because they think she's just a cinnamon roll. But let me talk to you about Hazel from the Heroes of Olympus series. This is the book where she is first introduced. Hazel is a fucking badass, and I don't know where this whole thing about her being a cinnamon roll, too good for this world, too pure came from, because like legitimately she's one of the most powerful demigods in the entire series, and no one gives her the time of day, and it needs to fucking stop. She actually fought Gaia, who is the main bad guy of the Heroes of Olympus series, and by herself stopped her from rising and died as a result of it. And so she lived in the underworld until Nico brought her back to life, and she's legitimately one of the strongest demigods. She's a child of the big three, like if she really came down to it. And everyone thinks that she's so sweet, but there's legitimately a part in one of the flashbacks where she tells a nun to her face basically to fuck off, and it's like, I don't know where this cinnamon roll shit is coming from. Like, Hazel is awesome. My favorite female character of the entire Percy Jackson universe. I adore her, and people need to stop treating her like she's a cinnamon roll, because we're lucky that Hazel is not dark, because if she was, she would be we'd all be fucking dead. The Tales of Ba Sing Se, which is best short stories or poetry collection. I'm not a big fan of short stories. Like I've said before, I'm a character driven reader. I need to connect to my characters. So short stories, they don't really give you time to grow to like the characters, and so I don't read them. And then I'm really bad at reading poetry. The Shadowhunter short stories I genuinely like. I know the characters, so it attaches to my, you know, needing to connect to a character thing. And my favorite short story of those is The Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy. First of all, I adore Simon, and he's like the main character of that, but also just every single story in The Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy slaps. Let me tell you. Like, even the other ones, there are a couple that I just don't care about either, but every single story in the Tales from Shadowhunter Academy short story collection slaps, and I adore them. Up next, Kyoshi Warriors, the best warrior characters. I genuinely did not think that I was going to be able to find a character for this, because I don't like fantasy, and that's typically where you'll find the warrior characters. Here's the struggle with me not being a fantasy reader, is that I am a sword lesbian, if you've followed me on Twitter. And I adore swords and women with swords, which is why I love Emma Carstairs, and I need to get into fantasy. I need to get through whatever this is that makes me not like fantasy, because there are women with swords. I know it. I need to find the women with swords, but until then, I'm gonna take this woman with swords. And so my answer is Emma Carstairs. She's one of the main characters for The Dark Artifacts by Cassandra Clare, and she has muscles and she has a sword, which means I'm kind of in love with her, but I also kind of want to be her And so that's my answer, Emma Carstairs. And next we have fire. So the first question is Zuko a best redemption arc? So for that I'm gonna say Liara from, or Lyra. I think it's pronounced Lyra, like lyric, but Lyra, you see, because siren. I love her. I love her a lot. But this entire book is kind of her redemption arc because she starts this book out as a murderer. She's a siren who murders princes, and that's it. That's her character. But when she's banished by her mother and turned human, she has to murder a specific prince as a human, so she doesn't even get her siren powers. She's still the same character, but she slowly begins to realize that her mother and kind of like the whole system that they're in is not great, and she slowly starts to come around to the human side, and I would call that a redemption arc. This also has one of my favorite enemies to lovers ships, and they flirt by talking about how they would poison each other, and it's great. Love it. 10 out of 10. Iroh, which is the wisest character. Hi, let me tell you about my favorite manga series of all time, which is Fruits Basket, and specifically about why Toru Honda, the main character, is the wisest person you will ever meet. I adore her. It's just she's not like book smart, but she's world smart, if you feel me. And she doesn't even really know how wise she is, but she goes throughout this entire series and spreads such wisdom. It's amazing. She uses the excuse that it's like advice given to her by her mom. Let me find one. So for example, there's this part where Yuki, who's my favorite character, is talking about how he is a bad person and he only pretends to be nice and kind to people because he wants them to like him, so he doesn't feel like he's being completely honest. She goes, still, my mother always said it's better to believe than doubt. She said people aren't born with a conscience, we're only born with wants, like appetite and material desires, in other words, survival instinct. The conscious is something that develops like our bodies. It's our hearts that grow inside us. She said that's why there are different forms of kindness depending on the person. Everyone has desires from the moment they're born, so that's easy to understand. But kindness is something that each person has to craft for themselves. It's easily misinterpreted or taken for hypocrisy. It could be round or jagged. When I realized that kindness comes in a variety of forms, it excited me. Your kindness is like a candle. It suddenly lights up, and when it does, it makes me so happy that I can't help but smile. That's your kindness. Fucking amazing. So wise. And that's just one. That's not even really that great of an example. Just she has these bits of wisdom that come out. She's so fucking wonderful. We don't deserve her. Azula, the best downfall. The thing about Azula is that even though she's a bad guy and you want her to go down, her going down is framed really, really sympathetically and really sad. So you hate her, but you feel bad about her downfall. And so I wanted a character that was like that. And so I'm going to say Luke from the Percy Jackson series. Here's why. I hate Luke. The thing about Luke is that he had points. Like, the gods suck, and definitely they needed to be taken down a peg, but the way that he did it was wrong. I love enemies, hence why I love the Legend of Korra enemies, that you can see their side of the story. But that they're doing things wrong. It makes the entire thing so much better. So his downfall, because you start out and you really, really love Luke in the first one, and then you find out that he's the lightning thief, and then you go through, you see these moments of Luke being a good person, just doing things for the wrong reasons, until the very end where he's really, really bad. But he breaks through and he realizes, I'm doing the wrong thing, and he ends up kind of on the side of good a little bit in the end. Like, he's definitely the bad guy, but you feel awful about his downfall. And last up we have air. Now, airbending is my favorite. makes sense because I'm a Gemini and that's an air sign. So the first question in air is Appa. Favorite fictional animal / pet? I'm gonna say Chainsaw from the Raven Cycle. I adore Chainsaw. Chainsaw is Ronan's dream crow, so he literally dreamed her up, and she's so sassy, but you can just tell that she's like cursing everyone out. I adore her. Up next, Aang. Purest cinnamon roll, and for that I have to say Winter from Lunar Chronicles. She is too good for this world. We don't deserve her. Like, I love Winter so much. She's one of my favorite characters. And the last question of the tag is Avatar State, a stubborn character or character that struggles with letting go. And for that, I'm going to say Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle, the book. If you've only seen the Howl's Moving Castle movie, I highly recommend the book, but know that Sophie is a completely different character. In the book, she is stubbornness made whole. Like, she is stubbornness made into a person. And her entire character is basically that she believes that as the oldest, she has absolutely no right to go on an adventure. Like, she has to be the responsible one. She has to be the one that is going to sit there and take over the hat shop and be responsible and never go on an adventure. And it really, really sucks. But she's stubbornly determined. And even when like other people are like, hey, you should be happy, she's like, no, I'm doing what is responsible, I'm doing what should be done. And then she ends up being forced onto an adventure, and she's just like, god damn it, I don't want to be on this adventure, I don't belong on an adventure. And then just her relationship with Howl, they're both so fucking stubborn, and they're basically butting heads the entire time. It's amazing. I adore Sophie. Motherfucker. And that has been the Avatar The Last Airbender book tag. I really enjoyed this tag. I love Avatar The Last Airbender. Can't wait for Legend of Korra to come out, and hopefully I'll be able to complete this readathon. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed your time with me today. As always, there's a link down below to where you can find resources to the movements that are going on around the world. There's also a link to register to vote. Make sure that you are registering by the deadline. Also, if you would like to have your absentee ballot, those deadlines are coming up. I'll include a link to where you can get your absentee ballot, and make sure if you do get an absentee ballot that you are voting early to account for mailing time. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.
They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel the voice in my head saying I don't think I'm. They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel the voice in my head saying I don't think I'm real, 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 I don't think I'm. I don't know where my head's been at.